In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I do on a one-on-one coaching call to help people like deprogram and rewire their brain so it stops putting their gut in and out of overdrive and giving them symptoms. This is like an actual call that I did with somebody. I changed their name and a few details so you can't figure out who it is. But this person had ulcerative colitis. And, they were kind of familiar with German New Medicine and what we do here. So his current state was he has ulcerative colitis, and there was blood in the toilet, and he had diarrhea 10 times a day. And this coaching call was about an hour and a half. So literally the whole time I'm asking him, what was really stressing you out before your symptoms started? So with something like colitis, there's the DHS, the conflict shock, which puts your gut into overdrive. You usually don't have symptoms at this point. Sometimes you have constipation, sometimes you have bloating, things like that, heartburn. But when the conflict gets resolved, we no longer need, it creates extra gut cells to help you digest and absorb, or in his case, to break down the crap, to get rid of it. But when that gets resolved, the body no longer needs these high maintenance cells and it starts to get rid of them. And then that's when you see blood in the toilet. Now, somebody with Crohn's or colitis, they're stuck in this healing phase. This chart right here is from learninggermannewmedicine.com. This is a great website for beginners. Awesome website for teaching you the basics of German New Medicine, and you can get a long way with it. Most of you with Crohn's and colitis are stuck here, okay? It's just, what makes you stuck here? Well, either the conflict can keep turning on and off. So in this guy's case, he was having some issues with his wife in 2022, but I really didn't have symptoms. So I'm like, okay, that's probably not it then. Then in February, this guy ran a business where he he gets truckers to truck, goods to places. And one of the drivers that he hired flipped over this big truck. I think it had gas in it or something. Anyways, it was he just went on vacation for the first time in years probably. And he gets a call from his brother while he's walking around trying to find something to eat that, it's oil. Oil went onto the highway, onto some big highway ramp. And it was just a big nightmare. So, and he had just bought this vehicle and now it just got trashed. The insurance hadn't been set up yet. It was just all sorts of issues going on. So something here. So somebody will first come to me. So when he first came to me, to iron out these little details right here, I just have a Word document open. But to iron out these little details, I don't know, this probably took 30 minutes to an hour. Could take longer depending on how aware somebody is of the situation. But at first he was like, oh yeah, work was really stressing me out. And okay, well, could you be more specific? Yeah, that this truck flipped over. Okay, well, we need to be more specific. What was the shocking moment? You weren't driving the truck. How did you find out about this information? I don't have my phone's filming, but let's pretend this is my phone. I'm on vacation. I think he was smoking a cigarette and he was drinking some coffee. Oh, my brother's calling me to say hi. If I had a good journey. What? The truck flipped over and you didn't get insurance yet? Oh, what? So the shock, maybe it was a text message. I don't remember. I think I was trying to get that out of him, and I think it was an actual phone call that he got from his brother. So the shocking moment could have been the phone call. Or maybe it was, that's really not a big deal. I have insurance. I don't actually. I forgot to file insurance. But then, so that could have been the shock. You normally don't get symptoms when the shocking event happens. So I was like, okay, well, let's keep talking, because there was more things that were very stressful around this time. Then he got a call from his biggest customer saying, like, hey, I don't know if I can do business with you anymore. Like, this is a catastrophe. You dropped my goods all over the highway and you weren't insured. Like, I can't do business with you anymore. And then that can be experienced like, I can't deal with this crap. Oh, you can't deal with this crap? I'm going to put your colon into overdrive. So, but I guess that got resolved because the biggest customer was like, yeah, we just, I'm not firing you, but, we have to suspend services for about a week or two. Okay, all right, no big deal. That's fine. Then later, the insurance company was giving him crap. Lawyers were giving him crap. He was constipated for a few days, so that's the conflict active symptom. So this is telling me, February, March, he's conflict active. And then something, if he saw blood in the toilet for the first time, somehow it got resolved here. Somehow the conflict got resolved. So, April 1st is when he had his first flare. So, April 20th. The lawyer stuff got taken care with. That lawyer crap got taken care with. But then he lost a bunch of money, and the reckless driver that was driving his car, threatened to sue. But then some insurance money started to come in, but not all. Got about half of his money back. So there was like a partial resolution, and he seemed like a pretty, like, if this happened to me, running Heal Your Gut Guy is such an easy business compared to doing this stuff. But like, if this happened to me, I would be like an emotional wreck. But he seemed pretty okay about it. Like, this had happened a few years ago, and it had all been resolved, and business was doing good, money was doing good. This is details on like what's happening now. So now I go to the bathroom every 3 hours and it's liquid. So that's telling me that he's hitting. Hey, are you still stressed out about work? No, work's great. No, we're doing good. We're doing better than ever. Business is booming, and I don't have any crazy employees. I don't have any open lawsuits. Business is great. Okay, well, what's a conflict relapse? Like, let's say the business it's just crap every day from the business. But that's not the case here. So what is continuing to put his and again, he might say that, but is it true or not? Maybe he doesn't have the awareness. Maybe there is something going on. I had concluded that it was probably subconscious PTSD triggers. If the shock was his brother, giving him a phone call, and he's, in business with his brother and talks to his brother, texts with his brother all day long, then he's conflict active, even if he's talking to his brother about, oh, dude, we just made the best deal in the world. We're going to be filthy rich. Yeah. And I'm on the phone with him for 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, I'm conflict active. And then I get off the phone with him. Everything's great. Everything's fine. But then I get off the phone with him. Diarrhea. And then some other like potential conflict shocks that I kind of remember, that, he was drinking coffee. The phone rings. Being out in the sun. Getting an email from the insurance, getting an email, getting a text message, getting a phone call. These are all potential PTSD triggers. If you're going to the bathroom, 10, 20 times a day, that's 10, 20 clues to finding these subconscious PTSD triggers. And, I've read Dr. Hammer's books. They're only in German. And in multiple occasions, he says bringing the PTSD trigger to consciousness, especially if the conflict's not active anymore, if the conflict's not an issue anymore, just bringing the trigger to consciousness becoming aware of it will stop that PTSD trigger. And he probably has 2 or 3 PTSD triggers. Probably one of them's causing half of these symptoms. But this is the therapy, is doing this timeline. This is the therapy. Walking around with a piece of paper or walking around with your phone, and every time you get symptoms, just jotting down some details. It's this time of the day. I just got a text message from somebody. I just got off the phone. I was on the phone with somebody. I was at home. I was at work. I was in the car. I've seen people where they would only get diarrhea in the car, and it's because their conflict shock happened in the car. Maybe seeing blood in the toilet was a conflict shock for this guy. It didn't seem like it because he didn't seem too worked up about his symptoms. When talking to this person, I remember they were like pretty calm and collected, and I was like stressed out for him. I was like, "What? Somebody crashed your brand new car and they didn't have insurance? Oh wow, that's insane." But this is what I show you guys how to do in my 13-day protocol, and the first day is free. There's on the end screen you can click and watch it, and I kind of explain what's going on behind the scenes, and I get a little bit more technical, and I show you lab studies. But in my 13-day protocol, each day I have you writing down, I have like little lists to help you track your trick, what you were doing, when you got symptoms. You're literally like, a lot of you are literally like one thought away, just having the thought of, oh yeah, I was having a coffee when, my brother called, and I sip on coffee all day long. Wow. That's stupid, but that's how the brain works. It's associative. This is the therapy. I do this with everybody. I spend the majority of the time, making the timeline, refining the timeline, but then it's on the person to, walk around and, make a list of these PTSD triggers and try to figure out what the PTSD trigger is, and then how it relates not to the conflict, but to the exact conflict shock. This is what you need to do to get better. You cannot make this timeline just going, oh yeah, I was stressed out about work when my symptoms started. So I figured out the conflict. Why am I not better yet? If this guy was still stressed out about work, then it would be like, well, you got to fix that. Maybe you got to get better at your job, get better people skills, or change industries, or what can you change about your workflow in order to make your job easier and more pleasant, so it's not complete torture. But the vast majority of the people who have Crohn's and colitis and leaky gut symptoms, they've already really resolved their conflict. They just have to hunt down the conflict shock and the PTSD triggers. And this is what rewires the brain. And, my 13-day protocol is better than me doing this. I don't work with people unless they go through my 13-day protocol, because otherwise we're squawking 2 different languages. But, most people get to day 7 and then they're like, oh, I'm fine. I don't have any symptoms anymore. And this guy might have been blaming food for 2 years. And, if you see blood in the toilet, and when you look down at the toilet, you go, oh, I had bread today. Bread must have did that. Then bread becomes a PTSD trigger. I want to get rid of these crappy symptoms, but I can't. And, bread's evil. Okay, well, every time he eats bread, we got to get this crap out of us, so I'm going to give him diarrhea. This is the therapy, guys. This is what you need to do to get better. So, all right, be sure to watch the first day of my protocol. It's free, and it's everything I wish somebody would have told me back when I was choking on gluten-free cake for my birthday. Blah, disgusting. and, going to see doctors and, waiting 2 hours in the waiting room and paying them hundreds of dollars just for them to tell me they don't know what the root cause is and they don't care, and they're going to up my dosage on the medicine that never did anything. And then my insurance calls me the next day saying, like, hey, you owe us $5,000 because, that's not covered. This is what got me better, doing this. And my conflict was very hard to find because a lot of it, some of it was recent, but a lot of it stemmed back into childhood. For those of you who have only been dealing with these symptoms for a year, under 5 years, you can get this under control so fast. There's not a lot of damage. It hasn't sunk in deep into your subconscious yet. But this is. If I had to do it all over again, these are the steps that I would take to rewire my brain to stop putting your gut, stop putting whatever organ you're dealing with in and out of overdrive. Let me know down in the comments if you liked videos like this, and maybe I can do another little case study thing like this.